This is a post from r/Askreddit. Chefs of Reddit, what's something simple we're probably all doing wrong in the kitchen? Having things ready in place. Have you ever been halfway done with a dish and realize you didn't have the cheese grated? Now everything is on hold, and overcooking, while you grate cheese? Having everything ready to go at the start lets you add the things when they need adding and helps put dishes out at the appropriate time. Mise en place bitches. Don't fuck with the mise. It's the mayonnaise. Never add garlic and onions at the same time. Onions take about 8 minutes to saute and garlic takes about 30 seconds. If you add them together you're gonna have burnt, bitter garlic. So how come lots of Asian dishes start with garlic and ginger in the oil before onion and peppers and so on? Those recipes aim to infuse the oil with the flavor of your spices. They rely on tossing/wok handling technique, short cooking time, and temperature differential between ingredients to prevent your spices from burning. Wow, I never realized how intricate of a technique that is required for Asian cooking. Thinking you need more salt when the dish just needs an acid like vinegar or citrus. Is it fair to say that with stuff that already has a lot of acid like tomato sauce for pasta, chili, etc. it's probably more salt? Possibly sugar, or honey, syrup, etc., for those to balance the acidity. I have found that a pinch of brown sugar works best. My dad is an aspiring smoke master, and it's insane how many smoker, even just grilling, recipes call for brown sugar, turbinado/raw sugar, etc. Obviously, a lot of barbecue-style recipes aim for sweetness, but it's amazing how easy it is to do without relying on store-bought sauces. Brown sugar is seriously the lifeblood of barbecue. I like to sub a lot of sugars with maple syrup, but then again I'm half Canadian. Under-seasoning. What's really amazes me is when restaurants get this wrong. KFC chips are the height of this. I know this is at the very low end of restaurant, but KFC chips without salt/seasoning are almost inedible, even at the right temperature. With salt though? Damn. KFC chips are the worst chips in Britain. Both the old and the improved ones. Even the frozen chips some kebab shops sell are miles better. Very much so. I've had KFC multiple times, and the chicken is great, but those chips are god-awful, literally the worst chips I've ever had in my life. How about simply chopping onions? It's literally one of the easiest things to do if you use the natural anatomical structure of the onion in your favor. Most people hack it into oblivion, which not only takes much longer, but also results in unnecessarily sad-looking onions. Plus it makes you cry. Quote. Do you have any visual guides or more tips to help with this, please? I've recently started cooking from scratch and veggies and onions are one of the things I struggle with the most. Gordon Ramsay showing how to dice an onion. This is textbook standard and there is no reason to use any other method for diced onions. Watching this not only taught me useful cooking skills, but also reminded me that I need to sharpen my knives because they don't even come close to cutting that smoothly. Thank you. Dull knives require more force, which leads to more accidents. Sharper knives are always safer, up to a point anyway. True. Use dull knife at parents, cut finger, passed out. Plus side was day off of work. Though I had a mild concussion. Never letting meat rest. Not keeping sharp knives, and just knife work in general. Cooking should be simple and easy. Fighting with prep work is never fun. Keep your fingertips tucked behind your knuckles and your thumb behind your fingers. That way, the worst possible thing you can do to yourself is slice off a bit of flesh around your knuckle instead of lopping a finger off. Edit. This is for holding the food you're cutting, not the knife, lol. Use your knuckles/flat part of your fingers as a guide. Here's a video that shows this, and other techniques. It will give you the gist and you can adjust it slightly until you're comfortable doing it this way. It took a while for me to get used to the bent knuckles thing, but you will get used to it, and I've never nicked a finger as long as I'm using this. I have on occasion let my thumb slide into the path of the blade, but thank God for thumbnails. Keep in mind, it can happen to the pros too, and if it does, don't be a fucking donut and keep prepping food while bleeding. Gordon Ramsay should be ashamed. That dish wasn't exactly vegan anymore after that. Never put knives under soapy water ever. I once saw someone put one in and they sliced their hand pretty deep, don't know how. Almost cut myself like this my first day as a dishwasher at a French bakery. Noped out of that job pretty quick though. I realized I don't want to work that hard for that amount of money. Hey, same. I was a dishwasher for a local restaurant and quit after a month. Not only was the work hard, but everyone in the kitchen treated me like trash too. Dish bitch. I have mad respect for the people washing the dishes. My first job was working in a cafe and I thought serving sandwiches and coffee was tough. Then the dishwasher was on holiday one day and I spent 8 hours at it. Never been so hot, exhausted, and stressed from being shouted at constantly. Practice your recipes. Don't find one risotto you like and never make a different one. Cook 10 different risottos 2 or 3 times each over a long period of time. Doing this helps you understand the basics of how to make it and allows you to spot bad recipes, recognize good ones, and improvise without one. Similarly, when researching recipes for a certain dish, look up a handful or more recipes, mostly from good, trustworthy sources, to come up with a fundamental recipe. By having multiple recipes, you'll be able to identify which ones simply give you incorrect instructions and which ones include steps that are more of a personal preference for that specific cook. Then, after you've figured out the fundamental recipe for a certain dish, you can experiment with your own personal touches. I recommend recipe sites with comments. Learn from dozens of people who actually made the dish and tried some variations. I really like this lobster with wine sauce recipe. I made some minor adjustments, just replaced the lobster with macaroni noodles because lobster is too expensive, and I didn't have any wine. I drank it all so I used a cheese sauce instead. Whole family couldn't get enough. I think I will try it again with hot dogs. 10/10 recipe. You're not wrong that there are comments like that. Even on the Food Network I see chefs cut the top off of bell peppers and then pull out the seeds. Bell peppers are shaped like a cube, just slice from the top down on all 4 sides and you'll end up with easily choppable or sliceable pieces. The only time you chop the top off is if you need rings. Also, most people don't realize the valleys on peppers correspond directly to where the membrane is on the inside. With practice, every slice you make will avoid the white entirely, so you never have to trim it off after the fact. As an aside, however, I also cut the tops off bell peppers, but only because it makes them easier to stand up for cutting, and for most purposes, the ring can still be sliced/chopped as needed. So basically slice the pepper as a square with the valleys being the corners? Not a chef, but pro tip, clean as you go. No matter how busy you are, throw trash in the trash, wipe up what you spill, get unnecessary utensils, plates, etc. out of the way. If you're done cooking and your kitchen looks like a tornado struck, you fucked up. Instead, the kitchen should be 3/4 clean, at least, by the time the cooking is finished. I've recently started rinsing out the pots and pans as soon as I plate the food and it makes post-dinner cleanup so much more palatable. Aren't they usually too hot to rinse right after you plate the food? I was always told not to do that because it would damage them. I don't think so. It's like deglazing the pan. I don't give it a thermal shock with cold water. I usually rinse it out with hot water. I mostly use cast iron too, so I'm not using soap anyway most of the time. Oh okay. Most of my stuff is non-stick pots and pans or Pyrex baking dishes, so maybe that's the difference. Yeah, I'd be super careful about thermal shock with that Pyrex stuff. But my original point still stands. Even if you take a hot wet paper towel or silicone scraper to quickly wipe it out after you've plated the food, it saves so much time versus later when all the dried food is caked on. If you want perfect roasted potatoes, oven roasted, chopped pieces, with crispy outside and fluffy insides, then boil them for about 5 to 10 minutes in salt water first. Then roast them. I would add a couple refinements to this comment. Parboil until they're tolerable to eat as boiled spuds. While you're doing this, preheat a tray with fat. Oil is okay, goose fat is best. Drain and then shake. I recommend a colander. This roughs up the outside of the spud cubes for more surface area to get crispy. Then put them in your tray and mix so they're nice and fatty. For bonus points, throw on some breadcrumbs and herbs. Nobody I have ever met in my life has ever had goose fat. That's not a refinement tongue. My parents buy it once a year and use it for the Christmas roast. It's amazing. I will 100% look out for it. French cooking is not yet an arrow in my quiver, but maybe yeah for a special occasion roast that sounds delightful. Just finished that awesome, wholesome, home-cooked and hot delicious meal? Don't put it on a cold plate from the cabinet. Some ovens have a warm plate setting, or even keeping a stack in hot water and drying them off right before plating can keep a hot meal hot. I always hated cooking an awesome dinner and then by the time I've served everyone and sat down my food is cold because it's sitting on an ice cold plate. Hell, even some of the newer dishwashers have a plat warmer setting. I have an old gas stove. I tend to keep my plates on the back burners that I'm not using while I cook on the front burners or use the oven. An excellent option as well. One of the kitchens I was at kept them on a low heat salamander. That's where I learned this trick. A what? A salamander is basically a open-faced broiler, but you can crank it down super low and use it as a warmer too. Eccentric emoticon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Experimental Journeys.